Yabba-dabba-dabba-doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
This is the Short and Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
Mike Kelly.
Okay, let's do it. Stand by, here we go with the very latest Mike DJ Kelly Short and Short podcasts. None of that negative, monotone British bullshit here. We're making the difficult decisions and bringing you the news and stories the others ignore. So crash hats and multicoloured lanyards on, and we'll crack on. Hop on board, get comfy, as we press the button for action and fire forward with the one-stop, non-stop, fully loaded, fun-filled, action-packed, free, funny, newsy, Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
On this week's podcast,
stand by for stories about TFL, Ruby Wax, religion, Royal Mail, Rich Lists, Professor Frank McDonough, fake showbiz news, Joyce the assistant, charities, competitions, and a whole lot more.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
Morning, Joyce. What are you doing in so early today?
Mr. Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast. Yes, I'm here, in early as I have stuff to do.
What is this stuff that you're doing that's so important?
Well, I'm starting to plan for the big day, and it's taking a lot of planning.
Joyce, that's good news. I didn't know you'd found anybody. I thought you were still on the pull.
Mr. Mike, I'm not referring to that. I'm on about the 4th of July party when we all celebrate having a change after 14 years. I think the whole world is celebrating on that day. It's impossible to get caterers, mobile DJs, bar staff. The way it's going, we are going to end up going down to the local spoons.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
I've seen the press. Non-surgeons are doing surgeries on you and your loved ones. According to the story I read, non-surgeons are removing gallbladders at hospitals. Lucky the notorious eunuch butcher, Marius Gustavsson, 46, has been jailed, or he could be out there operating on you.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
So with religious belief in the UK now down to less than 50% of the population, is there any point in holding a Bible in court and saying, I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you don't believe in religion or the Bible, that oath means nothing, as was demonstrated recently by ordained minister Paula Venables at the Horizon Inquiry.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Today's flipping easy peasy music competition. Name the song or the artiste, or if you're a right clever clogs, both. Flying, domestic flying, and when the stewardess is near, do not show any fear. Heartbeat increasing, heartbeat, you are a khaki-coloured bombardier. It's Hiroshima that you're nearing. Name the song or the artiste, or both.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
I'm Mike Kelly with the latest STS news. BBC Dragon's Den to be investigated for exploiting gullible entrepreneurs. Artificial intelligence Captain Grok let loose on X with tales of Taylor Swift. His Majesty the King to take 44 days off from his gruelling schedule so the election can go ahead. Rob Owen, the fittest fat bloke you'll ever meet, to be England's squash secret weapon for the 2028 Olympics. US Embassy owes £15 million in unpaid London congestion charges. Court case confirms UK speed limits do not apply to lycra-clad cyclists. That's it. You're up to date with all the news that is news this hour. I'm Mike Kelly for STS News.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
And just a thought on those long, wiggly, windy, ribboned queues that seem to be man-made and take hours to negotiate at airports to get to passport control. I think they are man-made and just there to create cash for the airports. After all, it's only a few thousand people wanting to board flights at the same time. Compare that, say, to Wembley Stadium, when a capacity crowd of 90,000 are expected. You're encouraged to turn up 60 to 90 minutes before the game.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
Mr. Mike, I have an idea.
Fire away, my imaginary podcast friend.
You know when you are driving and you enter a town or city and the sign on approach say something like Bridlington welcomes careful drivers.
Yes, Joyce, what about the signs?
Well, I think they should say which political party is in charge. So you can decide if you want to go to that sort of place, and so you can see the differences in how different councils do things.
This is the Mike Kelly Podcast.
And on the Shorter Than Short, it's Barry Phillips Discos at BP Discos and the 1,000 best songs in the world ever. Number 568, it's The Drifters and Saturday Night at the Movies. A 1964 number 35 single, when it was reissued in 1972, peaked at number 3. Best bid at 0.36. The Drifters must have been very partial to a night at the movies, because I can recall another occasion when they told us what they'd been getting up to in the back row of the movies. 575, it's The Move and Blackberry Way, 1969 number 1 single. Best bid at 0.36. I do realise that some will think it's a bit sad, but I've just checked my sat-nav and it appears there are 9 Blackberry Ways in the UK.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Don't forget, pod pickers, if you want to get in touch about anything to do with the Shorter Than Short podcast show, please use the following to contact us. And if you have any stories, gossip or jokes or anything for the next episode, go to @MikeKellyDisco on social media sites.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
And out there on those social media sites, Father Paul, all the real military people I have ever spoken to have said that they have no interest in national service being restored. The forces are increasingly technical and specialist. Why would they want to babysit kids who have no desire to be there? Andy Conway Morris, lads, I've had a great idea. Let's get young people to train as doctors, nurses, scientists, engineers. We could do this through a voluntary national education system, perhaps call it university. Imagine what that would give back to society. Suze Kempfer. Blows my mind that when I was a teenager, a popular TV show was a cooking program called Two Fat Ladies, where 2 right-wing women who didn't even like each other in real life were put together in a motorbike and sidecar and cook rich meals. Lisa Holdsworth, me and my mum, just back from a coach trip to the Chelsea Flower Show. The gardens and the flowers were gorgeous. However, what gave me the most pleasure was the collective reaction of a coachload of middle-aged Yorkshire women on hearing they were charging £99 for afternoon tea. Richard Cole's favourite sounds: blackbirds singing anytime, dogs drinking water from a bowl, piano being tuned. Dr. Julia Grace Patterson, can we flip this policy and force politicians to work in frontline, caregiving public sector jobs before they're allowed to become MPs? Dr. Dan Goyle, yesterday my team included 1 French doctor, 1 Pakistani doctor, an English nurse, an Australian anaesthetist and an Indian surgeon. Total number of migrants treated was 0. Labi Sifri, having one of my songs watch me in an episode of the revered British science fiction TV series Doctor Who, a national treasure broadcast by the BBC since 1963, is an honour indeed, more sought than a knighthood. I watched the first episode and many, many more. Not a normal vicar. Forgive me, Twitter friends, for I have sinned. I removed all copies of the Daily Mail from the newsstand at the local co-op and hid them beneath copies of the Sunday Mirror and the Observer.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
I see that Andrew Malkinson, who was wrongly convicted and spent 17 years in jail, is now struggling to survive on benefits while awaiting compensation. 74-year-old Ghanaian Nelson Shade from Wallasey, who has lived in the UK for over 50 years, must wait a decade before the Home Office will let him stay permanently. He now faces paying thousands of pounds to stay and use the NHS. Ofcom investigating Royal Mail for not meeting delivery targets, plus 18 Met Police now investigating them for the Horizon scandal. With all these scandals, who pays the compensation? Is it those responsible, or is it us? Does the government use its magic money tree to create money? For the infected blood sufferers, the government will borrow £10 million to compensate them, and that will be added to the UK's £2.7 trillion national debt.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
More social media stuff, stellar cast. Everyone. My mortgage has gone up £400 a month, my energy by £300, our household income by £0, olive oil is £8 a bottle, and if you drink the tap water south of Leeds, you'll shit yourself to death. Michael Rosen. Disappointed that Sunak has narrowed the national service recruitment to 18-year-olds. I've never been called up. Surely now would be an ideal time. After all, didn't we learn in the pandemic that over 70s have had their time? Put us in uniform. Come on. Father Paul. If elected Prime Minister, I promise to restore compulsory longbow practice for 2 hours after church each Sunday to ensure we are ready to drive back the French. Elizabeth Bangs. Christ, I hate being old, not because of aches and pains or knowing death is near, or regrets or worries or any of that crap, just because I get lumped in with the other old people who the polls tell me are selfish, embarrassing thick fucks dragging everyone in the country down. Hope Dickinson Leach. In France, when you turn 18, you get €300 to spend on culture, developing audiences, nurturing creativity, investing in the creative industries, all in one move. Just saying. Kath Lette. Ruby Wax is a passionate advocate for mental health. She also knows that sometimes laughter is the best medicine. Hope this book of mine gives you a healthy dose of droll sniggers and a severe case of cackling. The Revenge Club. And on that note, it's a while since we've mentioned our Bring Back Ruby Wax campaign, as this funny lady is needed now more than ever on our TV screens. Who is Ruby Wax? For more than 40 years, Ruby Wax has entertained audiences as a comedian, presenter and popular media personality. During this time, she's had a wide range of successes, including starring in the sitcom Girls on Top and fronting her own shows, The Full Wax, Ruby and The Ruby Wax Show. Where is she now? She has been open about her struggles with bipolar disorder and depression. She made an online series on mental health issues for the BBC and has worked with mental health charities. Wax's 2010 stand-up show, Losing It, dealt with her mental health, including time she spent in a psychiatric clinic. We say bring back Ruby Wax. Own show on Have I Got News For You, Countdown, Taskmaster, Blankety Blank, Celebrity Chase, McIntyre's Spinning Chairs, anywhere. But let's get her back.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
JML are advertising their mini vacuum cleaner at inflated prices. Yes, it's the JML Invictus Cleaner, which according to the advert cleans dirt you can't see. I wonder how you know when to empty it. There must be some sort of light or sign to say the machine needs emptying of dirt you can't see.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Oh yes, I have learnt something new. Wow. The Co-op reportedly paying £100 million for its name to be on the Manchester Arena. No wonder a packet of Paxo stuffing costs £2.60 at my local branch.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
So on Transport and the TfL, convoy of ULEZ ultra-low emission zone scrappage vehicles which are being sent from London to Ukraine to help relief efforts. I may be being a bit stupid here, but I don't think so. Wasn't the idea of the scheme to scrap them and to stop them polluting? Not to replace polluting vehicles with less polluting ones, but to still keep using the very polluting ones in a different part of the world? Surely, if you're stopping pollution, it's everywhere, not just in central London. Won't this mean you're actually increasing pollution using the old vehicles plus the new ones? What's this? The US Embassy owes £15 million and the Japanese Embassy £10 million in unpaid London congestion charges. And the recent court case revealed cyclists in spandex are above the law, as it turns out speed limits do not apply to cyclists. So watch out next time you step out in a 20-mile-per-hour zone. Anything from you, Joyce?
I see billionaire Nick Candy is moaning about the service charge on his £175 million Hyde Park flat that he only lives in part-time.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Okay, it's time for Guess the Celebrity. Born the 18th of June 1961, she is an English singer, songwriter and performer, noted for her powerful bluesy contralto voice. She was born in Billericay to a French father and English mother. She grew up in the nearby town of Basildon. She was appointed member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, in the 2021 birthday honours for services to music and is a supporter of Southend United. She came to prominence as half of the duo Yazoo, but has since mainly worked as a solo artist. Her worldwide album sales have reached a certified 23 million, with over 2 million singles sold. She has also achieved 9 top 30 singles and 5 top 10 hits in the UK singles charts. Her most recent album, her 9th, Other, was released on the 16th of June 2017. Who is she?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
If you're new to the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast, you can still get to hear all previous episodes just by searching or shouting the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
Let's look back at some stuff from years gone by with Professor Frank McDonough at FXMC 1957. May 1984, Eric Morecambe, part of the popular Morecambe and Wise comedy duo, died aged 58. He collapsed from a heart attack as he left the stage at the Roses Theatre in Tewkesbury the night before. May 1977, the Sex Pistols single God Save the Queen was released in the UK. It was banned by the BBC and the Independent Broadcasting Authority. It reached number 2 on the official UK singles charts. May 1968, Kylie Minogue was born in Melbourne, Australia. She rose to fame in the TV soap opera Neighbours in the mid-1980s before a successful career in pop. She's the best-selling Australian pop artist of all time. May 1951, the BBC Home Service Radio broadcast the first edition of what became the archaic Goon Show. The first series was called Crazy People and featured Peter Sellers, Spike Milligan, Harry Seacon and Michael Bentine. May 1907, the first Isle of Man TT Tourist Trophy motorcycle road race was held. They were organised by the Auto Cycle Club over 10 laps of the St John's short course, which was 15 miles in length and on the west side of the island. The winner of that first race was Charlie Collier.
This is the Short and Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Today's do-gooders are Turn to Us, who can be found at turntous.org.uk. The Turn to Us story began in 1897 when Elizabeth Thynne set out to help people struggling to make ends meet. Fast forward 125 years later, we are still here, enabling people experiencing life events to be more financially secure or even to lift themselves out of poverty through our practical financial support, information and programs. Over the course of our 125-year history, we have invested the charity's resources into providing vital support as life events unfold and plunge people into financial insecurity. This includes awarding over £3.6 million through 3,780 grants in 2021 alone. We have also helped over 2 million people understand their benefit entitlement through our benefits calculator tool in the last year. Since its inception, Elizabeth Thynne Homes has provided care for 12,000 residents. Get support, get involved, or just find out more about them by going to Turn to Us, that's Turn, the figure 2, Us, who can be found at turntous.org.uk.
This is the Short and Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Fake Showbusiness News at Fake Showbiz News. Nick Grimshaw admits part of him died forever when BBC Radio 1 invited Bank Holiday Monday listeners to request any song or theme tune, and more than 70 people requested Mr. Brightside. Roy Keane says it infuriates him when contestants on Race Across the World stop off to do some sightseeing. It's not a holiday, he raged. Girls allowed spring major surprise on first night of their comeback tour by opening with raunchy cover of the firm's 1987 hit Star Trekking. Gary Barlow says while Dua Lipa might be quite attractive, you have to remember she smokes, so kissing her would not be a pleasant experience. Richard Hammond says if the Northern Lights were pink over your house, that means you are gay.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
And a final burst from the social media sites. Elodie Gillerum. We should be thankful for Ian Hislop, someone who is never afraid of telling it how it is. Unlike most of the UK media, it's extraordinary that someone speaking common sense with such clarity is such a rarity in our media. Dr. Steve Taylor, cost comparison, Glastonbury weekend ticket £335, full car service and MOT £225, pet insurance £360, football season ticket £380, 5 takeaway coffees a week £3.40 equaling £884. Did you know that you get all your GP practice services for a year for £165? It's too little and has been cut by £35. Bank of Dave. I have been filming a behind-the-scenes programme, especially for Netflix. I'm filming the making of my new movie, Bank of Dave 2, the sequel. In this new film, me and David H. go after the payday loan industry, which prey on the poor and vulnerable. Simon Bates. On Sunday, London cabbie Courtney picked up an elderly lady and her luggage and drove towards her hotel on the South Bank. New diversions prevented him from reaching it, so he parked up and took her the rest of the way by tube, then returned to his cab. Black cab hero. James Melville. 1 in 7 shops are now empty all over Britain. So many towns and city centres are decaying at an alarming rate. Poor maintenance, high business rates, empty shops, unclean streets. Shame on the local and national governments who did this. Gwendolyn. I actually think at this stage I could win the general election. Everybody gets Mondays off. Quiche is a criminal offence. Free beer on rush hour public transport. No inheritance tax. Crock wearers go to prison. Slow drivers on the motorway are flogged with potatoes, etc.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
On Dragon's Den, when people come on and pitch their ideas and products to these industry dragons with the wonga, who offer money for a percentage share in the business, they only ever offer money to products or services that are doing okay. If it's risky, they don't offer the cash. I know it's a TV show, but I think if they offer the cash, you already have a successful business or product, and it would be a bad move to give some of it away to these people. Whinge of the week, Virgin Money, soon to be the Nationwide, but formerly Yorkshire Bank, all very confusing for the customer, especially if you preferred the Yorkshire Bank. Anyway, Virgin Money has decided the standard interest rate on your M Plus account is reducing. Not an issue that will trouble Rishi Sunak, who is now on the Sunday Times rich list with his £2.2 million income, on which he pays 23% tax. A new entrant this year to the rich moneybags list is Graham King, whose company has paid £3.5 million a day to accommodate asylum arrivals. Also in the top 5 loads of cash list are Sir Jim Ratcliffe with 23.519 billion and Sir James Dyson and family with 20.8 billion. The list does contain a few people who like to be called Sir. I'm sure the aforementioned filthy rich moneybags did get their wealth in legitimate ways, but I did read that most of the UK's land was originally owned by the King, who gave nothing for it. It was then sold or bequeathed to lords, and more than 80% is still in the hands of these people. They never paid anything for the millions of billions of pounds worth of land they own. Tony Benn summed it up in these words: I don't think people realise how the establishment became established. They simply stole land and property from the poor, surrounded themselves with weak-minded sycophants for protection, gave themselves titles, and have been wielding power ever since.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
In the late news, schools in England to send police to homes of absent pupils and threaten parents with being put on waiting lists to go to jail. Gamble Aware, the gambling addiction charity, is being investigated for promoting gambling. Home milk delivery services across the UK now making deliveries of bottled water following drinking water scares in Brixham and London. Daniel Rooney, Scottish singer plucked from obscurity to replace Ollie Murs as the opening act at a Take That gig, is to become a permanent replacement. Ghostbuster-style electromagnetic devices that fire rays to shut down e-bikes being used by criminals are being developed by the police. Canal boats are the new way of living for young couples wanting to get on the housing ladder. Joyce, anything from you?
Government are now letting prisoners in UK jails use Monopoly Get Out of Jail for free cards.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
If you want to get in touch with this top-rated and sometimes much listened to podcast, please contact at Mike Kelly Disco on social media sites. Indeed, if you do want a podcast making for your business or need any help with radio producer or presentation, travel news, voiceover work, please do get in touch. Please tell your friends about the podcast. All they need to do to find it is search on Google or any other search engine for the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Joyce, what's this rumour? The team in the newsroom say you have got your eyes on a new fella.
That could be true, but it's at a very early stage. He does not know me or that I fancy him.
Come on, spill the beans. Who is he?
He is very good looking. He's on the telly tonight. I'm trying to find ways to contact him to make my feelings known to him.
And he is who?
Ian Hislop. He's very funny and very clever.
Yeah, but let's be honest. he's not going to want to go out with a 50-plus red-haired northern bird in black skinny jeans, stud belt, leather jacket with ripped mesh trim and wearing Doc Martens.
Oh, don't be so shallow, he's from down south, he won't know what's hit him.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
Okay, it's time to go. Name the song of the artiste. Flying, domestic flying, and when the stewardess is near, do not show any fear. Heartbeat increasing, heartbeat, you are a khaki-coloured bombardier. It's Hiroshima that you're nearing. The answer was, it's Sparks with This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us. Guess the celebrity. Born the 18th of June 1961, she is an English singer, songwriter and performer, noted for her powerful bluesy contralto voice. She was born in Billericay to a French father and English mother. She grew up in the nearby town of Basildon. She was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, in the 2021 birthday honours for services to music and is a supporter of Southend United. She came to prominence as half of the duo Yazoo, but has since mainly worked as a solo artist. Her worldwide album sales have reached a certified 23 million, with over 2 million singles sold. And that, my friends, is Genevieve Alison Jane Moyer, better known as Alison Moyer. Today's do-gooders are Turn to Us, who can be found at turntous.org.uk. Guess what, my friends? That's enough for this edition of the Crazy Shorter Than Short podcast show. From me, Mike Kelly.
And me, Joyce.
Thank you for listening. Please take care out there. And remember, you can always find the podcast by searching or shouting the Mike DJ Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short and Short podcast for you.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
This is the Mike Kelly Podcast.
Mike Kelly.